Thank you so much for doing this. I'm just really thrilled.
Well, my pleasure. It was such it just tickled me getting that blast from the past. It just never comes up. Although, come to think of it, just recently it did. Oh yeah, as you know, I'm a stand-up comedian and motivational speaker,
Mhm.
and I go over the country. And this client, some nurses association, they were having a meeting in Cincinnati area. Oh, I got the gig. That's right. Anyway, it's coming up, and I, the woman that I spoke to who reached out to me, she said, "I don't know if I should bring this." I've forgotten how she put it. Anyway, she said, "I was a fan of Paradise, and so when I found out that you answered me straight back and you were Scotty the bartender, it just made me glow." So I thought that was pretty cool too, because I mean it literally never comes up, nobody recognizes me or anything. So that's it's just fun every
Mhm.
once in a while for that to happen.
Well, I think there's actually on Me TV Plus, which I can't get that channel, but I think they're actually rerunning it now.
Oh,
So
I get
residuals?
residuals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get a huge check for $2.84. You know,
Yeah.
it was funny yesterday. I said to my wife, "You want to watch Honora tonight?"
Hmm. No, yeah,
The
that,
big
yeah,
winner at
great,
the Academy Awards,
great.
and uh, and she said, "Sure." She said, "I think it's going to cost us like $5 or something." I said, "Great." And believe yesterday, I got a residual check from the Tonight Show from 1982 with
Wow.
Johnny Carson for $5. So Johnny paid for our movie night last night.
Movie. That's that is what a coincidence,
And
to
it,
get
yeah.
suddenly get it. So I have questions about Paradise, and there's a couple other people online that there's a little group, and they had some questions. So these are
Oh, sure.
mixture of
All right.
questions. So first, did you audition for Paradise? And if so, was Scotty the role you initially auditioned for?
Yes and yes.
Oh, okay.
I was with my agent was William Morris. Fellow named Jeff was my personal agent, and I kept asking him to send me out on dramatic roles. Ah, Mac, the industry sees you as a comedian, which is what I was and am.
Mhm.
And I said, Jeff, the industry doesn't see me. They don't know what I can do. And so he sent me out. I don't think this was the first dramatic one he sent me out on, but I booked another one. I remember being a redneck in a trailer park doing something. But the Mississippi accent comes real
Mhm.
natural to me, you
Handy.
hear. Uh, and Anyway, so I had this audition set up for this role for Scotty in a new show called Paradise. And I was excited because it looked like it was right down my alley, like something I could do. I got the sides and I studied them carefully. I knew I didn't have to read any script when I went in for my audition. I learned it word for word. And a couple of things I remember about the audition. It was in Hollywood, at Paramount, I believe, studios. And I went in there and there were, I don't know, half a dozen people out in the hall for various roles coming up. And it was hot. Man, it was one of those LA summer hot. It was, and they came out and said, "Oh, we apologize for the AC. It's down today." And so everybody was fanning themselves and everything. And so finally they called me, and uh, I walked in, and it was cool. They had air conditioning in the producer's room, and the thing I remember was there must have been. I'm not going to exaggerate here. I'll bet you there were a dozen people. Usually, when you go into an audition, in my experience anyway, there's usually a casting director
Mhm.
there sitting across the table from you, and he or she reads, and that's it. And they'll take notes, and you'll either get a call or not. Um, oh, I guess I'd done a preliminary. That's what it was. I'd done another audition, and they narrowed it down, and so they asked me to come in to audition for the producers. And I walked in, and it was a dozen of them. Anyway, and I said, "Wow, boy, that feels good." And somebody said, "Oh, it's kind of hot out there." And I said, "Yeah, I weighed 280 pounds when I got here, and it got a great laugh." And I thought, well, that's a good start, you know. And then they don't know if you remember the episode, but a couple of outlaws come into town, and they come to the bar and they order whiskey, and I poured it some, and they started to leave, and I said, "That'll be 6 bits for the whiskey, bud." And one of them turned around and put a gun to my face, and I said, on second thought, it's on the house. And both of the outlaws had lines, and both outlaws were played by a thin little blonde woman. So
For your audition.
I really had to imagine what was
Right.
going on here. But I'd rehearsed it really well, and I got the call the next day. My agent called. "You got it."
Wow.
"Okay, Jeff, here we go." So it was a great memory.
Right. Um, what did you enjoy most about playing Scotty?
Oh gosh, um, I uh, I just the whole experience was just interesting and fun. They had the sound stage. I can't even remember where it was. Come to think of it, but where we did all the interiors. It
Uh-huh.
wasn't far from. It was in the L.A. Hollywood area. It's funny, I can't remember where it was exactly, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, um, but when we did exteriors, it was out at a place they call the Disney Ranch,
Hmm.
and it was a good 40-minute drive for me north of the city, up near Valencia, and you'd be on the freeway, 405, and then you'd take that exit and you'd go off kind of into a wooded area and farmland and all that. And then if you got out and you walked into an 1880s town, looked just like an 1880s town, all the facades.
Hmm.
Some of them you could actually go in, but many of them were just facades. There was nothing behind the church or whatever. But I don't know why, but they always had some wood smoke going, so you got the feeling, and the horses and the wranglers and all that. And actually doing the work uh, was just, it was fun to me. I mean, sometimes when I was getting beat up or something, even that was fun, actually. I was really wiry and athletic, and I did all my own stunts. There weren't many, but I did the ones that I could, which I can't remember ever saying no. I don't want to do that. I mean, I flew through a window, uh, breakaway glass, of course. They had a mattress out there on the ground, and I did all that. So it was like little boy time for me. I was
Right.
back in 12 years old again, playing cowboys and Indians.
Yeah.
And the group, everybody, Lee Horsley and Sigrid and everybody, just great folks to hang with too.
Mhm.
And the prop masters and the
Right.
wranglers and all those folks. So
Right.
it was
All
just
the,
very enjoyable. I enjoyed the whole thing.
let's see. Were you at any time allowed to improvise on the set or change any wording of the script if you thought it like suited your character better?
I did. I gave it one shot. I didn't improvise.
Hmm.
Now the script was the script, and you
Right.
stuck to it. and I did. But I asked uh, whoever was appropriate to ask, a producer, one of the producers. All these names have gone out of my head, of course, after 34 years. Uh, but I asked if I could try this. I mean, I'm a comedian.
Right.
I tend to think funny. And Scotty was, he wasn't a terribly serious character, and bartenders are very loquacious and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, friendly
Mm-hmm.
by nature, I think. I don't know if they were in 1880, but I
I don't,
assume they probably were. They
I
kind
guess
of talked.
they were getting tips then, maybe too. So
I don't even know.
I don't know if they did then or not.
I should have researched that,
Yeah.
Connie. I feel bad. But anyway, uh, Lee said something. I mean, the character Ethan,
Hmm.
our hero, said something like, "Well, I don't know, when is that supposed to happen?" And I picked up a newspaper where if you something like, "Well, Ethan, if you'd use a newspaper for something besides wrapping fish, you would know that so and so, And it was kind of smart alecky, but I thought it might get a chuckle and from the viewer. And he let me do it, and it's in there.
Hmm.
Uh, but that was the only time I can think of where I had to, I mean, I got to do a line that I had come up with.
Hmm.
But you just reminded me of of a trying time.
Oh.
Uh, do you remember when we were leaving town on a
The
buckboard, I guess it was.
the last episode of like season two when everybody was leaving, but then they decided to come back. They were going to stay because Ethan came back or something. Is that?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And my wife, my character's wife, who was
Hmm.
married to a producer, by the way,
Right.
um, and our child
Hmm.
was up front, and I've forgotten if she was holding him. That child was twins, by the way.
Hmm.
I don't know if you were aware of that. You probably are, being a fan. Uh, and as soon as we got up on that buckboard, that child started screaming his head off, crying, screaming, "Oh, I'm doing all." And I waited. I mean, the director said action, but I couldn't. It was something literally screaming from this far away. I couldn't be heard, and he was jangling my nerves. But we were on a schedule, and finally the producer came up and he was mad at me. He said, "Just do it, Mac. Just do the lines." I said, "Okay." So with that child screaming its head off, I did the lines and I did the best I could, staying in character with that going on. And of course, later I had to go in and loop it
Hmm. Here,
and
yeah.
do the voiceover. But that was one of the most stressful 5 minutes of my time on Paradise, with that child just screaming its head off. My
Yeah,
God.
I'm sure that's hard anytime there's like a baby or a little kid on set because you don't know
But
what they're
yeah,
going to do.
and the thing is, obviously, the child couldn't be seen because he would be going, you
Yeah,
know. So,
I
and he
can't
was kind of in a
remember.
blanket anyway. I didn't know why they didn't just take him out and put a blanket on inside a blanket or something. But anyway, one of my memories, many memories. Okay.
So, what about Scotty was most like yourself? I would assume you the comedic part.
Yeah, that. Oh gosh, that's. I guess one way to put it would be that Scotty was exactly like me, because I just brought me to the character and it
Uh-huh.
was okay. I didn't have to change much of anything. There were some dialogue things that I would have changed had I been in charge, but I was not. Uh, but my southern accent comes through anyway, but it kind of blends with a western accent. I don't know what their intention was, or what, if it made any difference to them that I had the accent. I mean, they cast me, so
Yeah.
They kept me, so I guess they were okay with
I
it.
think they liked it.
Must have, must have. But yeah, I pretty much just I didn't have any stretches really, so I could just be myself, which was good because acting's hard.
Yeah, sure. I couldn't do it. So did you watch the episodes when they aired, or did you just not?
Yeah, I did. I know a lot of people cringe and don't want to see them. There were a couple of them that I felt like I really did a bad job, and I might have winced once and watched it, but didn't watch it again. Uh, but no, I like to see the whole thing pieced together because we did, um, as I recall, and I think this is correct. We tried to get 7 minutes on film every shooting day, whether we were inside or out.
Mhm.
And so, it's real choppy. You don't, this scene might, the first scene of the day, of the morning, might be at the end of the show
Right.
or middle somewhere, whatever. Of course, we had the script, so we knew where we were, but it was fun to watch them bring it together with the music and the segues and the background people and all of that. It really came to life, which
Mhm.
so I enjoyed watching. And everybody back home enjoyed watching me too.
You too.
In little Moss Point, Mississippi. Oh my goodness, Paradise Night was Mackie Dryden night.
That's
I can't
nice.
tell, yeah, I can't tell you how many people uh, came up to me when I would be back home, visiting my folks. And oh, they would tell stories about how they got people together on Sunday night to watch Moss Point Boy.
So, the characters of Ethan, Amelia, and Scotty seem to have a true friendship that went beyond that of friendly bartender and waiter. As actors, did you consciously try to build that chemistry with Lee and Sigrid in order to establish a convincing on-screen rapport between the characters, or did it just develop on its own?
It pretty much developed on its own because I respected the heck out of both of them, and they had some respect for me, and I was afraid at any time, since they were probably, I know Sigrid worked very hard as a trained actress. I don't know how much actual acting schooling that instruction or whatever that Lee had, but they were both terrific, I thought. Um, and Connie, I had virtually no acting schooling. No, I didn't train.
Mhm.
I did a couple of classes, but as far as really getting into the nitty gritty and working hard at it to be an actor, I didn't. I kind of fancied myself a natural with the caveat that I took it seriously and worked my butt off on it when I had a scene coming up. I worked and worked and worked and worked. So hopefully I would nail it, and hopefully my choices would be what the director had in mind, or the writer, or whoever. And very rarely, if ever, I can't ever remember. And if they did, if they wanted me to change something, it was more in nobody ever said, "Good God, where'd you come up with that, Dryden?" It was more like, "That was good, Mac, but how about this time you try to feel like you're baffled by the question rather than just come out or something,
Mhm.
whatever, like a helpful director will do,
Right.
not beat you down, but lift you up."
Right.
Yeah.
Um, well, okay, this might have you've already answered it, but as actors, did all three of you, Sigrid, you, and Lee, approach scenes the same way, or did you have different acting styles?
Hmm. Um, I was so self-involved at the time that I didn't watch anybody else very much because, I mean, I really felt kind of like an interloper, like they were going to find me out anytime. That he's not really an actor, you know. He doesn't have any training. He's done this a few times. I mean, I was a stand-up comedian for uh, 10 years before doing that. So I was accustomed to being in front of people and in front of the camera. I'd done
Mhm.
television.
Right.
And so that was good. But as far as action, and then you're somebody else, I didn't do that much. So I try to keep a very low profile and just show up when they said, Mac, come on. And but Ethan and I will call him Ethan and her Amelia, but they were both very serious about it, and not in a standoffish way at all. But you know, you can always tell when somebody's working, and you leave them alone.
Mhm.
Amelia was just so sweet, and um, I could ask questions if I had a scene with her. We would talk it out, and I'd say, "Well, when I come in, do you think blah blah blah?" And she'd say, "Oh yeah, no, that sounds right to me," and very giving. Um, and quick story. Uh, I have friends out there from Mississippi, very well known screenwriter. His name is David Sheffield. He and his wife Cynthia, friends for ages. And I was over for dinner with them, and they were asking me how it was going on Paradise. And they said, "How is it, Sigrid Thornton? What's she like?" And I said, "Oh, Siggy's just great. I mean, she's." And David said, "Siggy? You call her Siggy?" I said, "Yeah, everybody calls her Siggy pretty much." Uh, but he said, "You know her that well? You'd think she'd come over for dinner one night, some night?" And I spoke to her, and she and her husband came over to for dinner. But I think I was between wives at the time, so I might have been by myself. Uh, but yeah, it was nice to meet off the set and just have a nice visit and good food. Did that answer anything at all?
Yeah.
I forgot what the question was.
It kind of leads into my next question, but you kind of did you, Sigrid Lee, or other cast members build a friendship in real life, and have any of you kept in touch over the years?
The short answer is no, but it certainly had nothing to do with there being any animus between us. You
Mm.
know, everybody was friendly, with one notable exception that I won't bring up. But while we're recording, but it's just that when it went away, everybody kind of went their separate ways. We had different careers going on, different interests, and gosh, I'm trying to think if
Sigrid went back to Australia, so that would have kind of been hard.
that would have been tough to stay in touch. Um, but yeah, I don't know why. The other thing was too, even though we did spend time together on the set, of course, it was really kind of like you're at home, you get in your car, you go to the set, you get made up, uh, they call you to work, and you go in and work, and you're on camera or you're waiting to go on camera. There was not a lot of chit chat time. Uh, we did have downtime, of course, because if you're only getting 7 minutes uh, on film in a day of shooting, obviously the setup times are seem forever.
Mhm.
But it just wasn't a party atmosphere or anything. We chatted,
Mhm.
we did, and asked about other people and all. Uh, but oh darn it, I should have looked it up. There was a man that I did get friendly with, and I can't think of his name. You would know him, but he invited me out to his wife's home. and that was nice. What was his name? Uh, he was on F Troop. Does that ring a bell? I
Not,
could look. Doesn't
yeah,
matter.
it does.
But generally speaking, you were there to do a job. You did the job, and you went home, rather
Mhm.
than it being a very
Sure.
social thing. You
Right.
know,
Sure. Sure.
I mean, actors were studying their lines. The grips and the prop people were busily doing things and all that. Anyway,
So, excuse me. What is your most memorable scene and or your favorite Scotty scene in the series?
oh wow. Uh, well, un, unfortunately, the most memorable because it pops up in my memory all the time and makes me cringe. Uh, I got uh, I got afflicted one day with stage fright, and I missed my line. And I'm talking about with probably 60 or 70 extras standing in front of me. What it was, uh, Ethan was there was a mob and they were going to hang this guy, and he's saying no, he's got to be tried. No, everybody knows he's guilty, and he said no, we're going to try this man. Stay away and all that, and they're yelling at him and raising rubber guns, uh, and I was to go up on where he was and with my gun in front of this mob. And my only line was, I'm standing with cord. And they didn't tell me, and they didn't do a pre movement of the camera. But I was standing there, and after he had said action, Ethan's character said something, and then it was my turn, and this camera, a handheld camera, came up to my face like this. I mean, this close, literally this close from way down there. And it just, I wasn't expecting it, and it just froze me. And unfortunately, they were trying to get that shot in before lunch, and they didn't, and they had to break for lunch, union rules. And I never got to do it again. So I missed a great setup and a great moment. And Connie, I have to admit that that moment comes back to haunt me, and I'll cringe just when I think
Oh,
about it. Um, but on the fun side, which, and this sounds odd, but like I say, I enjoyed doing stunts. And forgotten the story, you might remember it, but some cowboys come in and drag me across the bar, sit me in a chair, maybe tie me. I've forgotten. Maybe one of them was holding me, and they beat me up. And of course, they weren't beating me. But the odd thing about it was, I was raising my then 2-year-old daughter by myself, and sometimes I just couldn't get somebody to be with her, and I had to take her. And happily, some of the makeup ladies and costumers and all would help me out when I had her on the set. Uh, they did not dread her showing up or anything. It was friendly, and I didn't do it often.
mhm.
She happened to be on the set. Uh, she would have been a little older than that. God, not much. Anyway, she was 3 probably, and she was quiet. And then when they started, I was tied to the chair, and I'm just moving my head in sync with them, going like this. And she started crying, and we had to stop. And I came over there and hugged her and told her that this is play, just pretend,
Mhm.
and they're not hitting me. See, Johnny here, he's a nice fella. Hey, Brittany, I see. I'm not hitting your dad. I wouldn't hit your dad. And And sure enough, and she got over it and she got it. She understood. And she got through that. But I'll never forget that poor little thing watching her dad get beat to pieces.
She was like, ah,
Yeah, this is no fun.
yeah.
They didn't tell me they were going to beat my daddy up. That
So,
was one of the more memorable.
so did children and families visit on the set? I know that there was I believe they had like some school groups sometimes come and visit the set or
That was very few and far between.
okay.
Um, I, I, when they were close to wrapping, uh, families came out there, and we shot with a lot of people, probably too many people. Um, I remember Siggy getting a little annoyed uh, when yet another person came over and asked if they could please take a photo with her. Sure, happy to. But it was justified because, we're working and
Mhm.
this is not a showtime here. It's showtime later.
Right.
Watch it on TV. But no, the short answer to that was I was very uh, honored and pleased that not only did my parents get to see us working and come on the set, of course, they were very mature, older people. Um, and mom is still with us at 98.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got to see her just a month ago or so. I went and spent a week down there. I do it about 3 or 4 times a year because you don't have many chances. She's in a nice assisted living
Hmm.
facility that she loves, thank goodness. Um, but yeah, I was lucky that I had uh, some of my family able to come onto the set, and but they didn't encourage it certainly.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, that would be probably a little disruptive at times, like you saying.
They couldn't do it.